Alright, we are finally at what should be the final video, and that is working with something I've mentioned before but not shown yet, and that is the MKVToolNix GUI. Previously I've only talked about the MKVToolNix command line utilities of MKV merge and MKV prop edit for property edit. So let me show you. When you first open it up, you get something like this. I've already put some stuff in here. But this is the muxer, the multiplexer, okay? So you can see that label over there, multiplexer. We also have info tool, not going to bother with that. Header tool, we'll talk about that. Chapter editor, we'll talk about that. Then job queue and job output. Shouldn't have to worry about those. Okay. So what we see here is we have a few things going on here. Three main parts. Up top, we have there is a list of the media that you have put into the multiplexer. We put them in a specific way. I will get to that. Then down there is the list of the different streams available, or rather just information. So we've got, this is an audio process video, so we've got AV1. We have the two audio tracks, English and Japanese. You can even see that in there with the language. Subtitle tracks, two of them that I'm going to be muxing in. Two are turned off because I'm using the one file that already has those. The two original HDMVPGS, so that's the picture-based subtitle tracks. 5 entries for the chapters, and then we got some tags. I don't know what they are. I don't really care. I think one of them would be like, oh, this make MKV tends to leave a metadata tag. This leave a metadata tag as well. That's what those are, so don't need to worry about those. Okay. And then over here, the properties that apply to each one of the streams. All right. So as I said, when you drag and drop, because I didn't make up screenshots for this, when you put a new file in here, right? So you drag it in so it's up there. So video was first and then the two subtitle tracks. It will ask you how you are adding them, with the options of add as new source file to the current multiplex settings. That is what I want here because I want to combine them. Create a new multiplex setting. Create new multiplex settings and add to those. So that would be open up a new tab, because we'll see we're in one tab. Open up a new tab and start putting things in there. So that's if you drag and drop multiple files on. Create new multiplex settings for each file. So that'd be a new tab for each. And then we have append to an existing source file. So that would be like if we have multiple videos that we want to concatenate together, attach all together. I actually have a script for doing that. I doubt I'll include it in the repository of the other scripts. Maybe, but I doubt it. But one neat thing with doing that with this tool is you can set it to put a chapter point where each video, where the transition is from one video to the next. That can be very useful because, for example, some extras on Blu-rays, like if it's the deleted scenes, sometimes on there is actually a single video file that just gets played through, and if you want to play at a specific one, it treats it like a chapter point. Other times, no, they're individual files. So what I will do for that then is I'll just take them all, concatenate them using, not necessarily, I'll use the MKV merge, I'll use the command line thing, but can do it in here. So then they're all in there, have the chapter points, and then I go in and edit the chapter point names. Going to be looking at the chapter point editor later, so I'll talk about it then. And then add as additional parts to an existing source file. It is possible to have MKV files and such split, and so that, in theory, you go from one to the next. It's like a playlist. This would be handling that. Basically, I have never needed to use that last one. Append to an existing source file comes up occasionally, not very common. Mostly, it's the first one or create a new multiplex setting. So, yeah, add it as new source file to the current multiplex setting. Multiplex settings. That's what gets us this. So now we have those multiple. And you see they're color coded. So we've got up top is the original thing that has all the tracks in there. It's green. We can see that down there. You just drag and drop and it's already in there. You can click and drag any of those streams and probably also the tags. Let me actually see. Can I actually reorder the tags? No, I cannot. But the streams you can. So you can, I want the text subtitle tracks to be ahead of the image-based. So that just means, and then when this file is actually run out, is processed out, that I can set it so it's there. So that also means then that in like VLC, these text subtitle tracks, they will be placed in the list of subtitle tracks at the top. That's what I want. So put them up there. Now we've got over here, we've got the copy this item, which that's the checkboxes. It's the same thing in control, same control there. The track name. And there is a way to, I'm not going to bother with, you can explore for yourself. You can put in defaults there, so it's a drop down. You can then more easily say, hey, yeah, I want it to be English. Like the name of the subtitle track be English. You can set the language if it's a default track, track enabled, the forced one. So remember how in the previous video with subtitle edit, I mentioned that I will put .en tilde English, so language, it'll already know. And then .forced, that enables the forced display flag to be yes. I don't need to set it, it's just already set to that. Hearing impaired, visual, yeah. Then we have these other ones that some stuff I'm not sure if it really bothers with, like commentary. I don't know how much actually uses that. How much respects that, but yeah, you got all that. Once you're done, you see down here, that's where it will save the file. You want to make sure it doesn't overwrite a file. So yeah, and you can also set it so like I do have, it'll go into an MKVToolNix folder. Yeah, you can set it so that it will by default make that folder in the season 1 folder, and then just write the file in there. As I said, it's worth exploring. It does a lot of stuff, so I do in fact encourage you to explore the settings for this tool, because that will help you familiarize yourself with it and what you can possibly do with it. Because there's definitely stuff in here that I don't use, but maybe you will. So, okay, so that's this one. Now let's say that you changed that you did this. You put the tracks in there, the subtitle tracks in there, but you forgot to change their names. You forgot to set the name to be translation or English. You forgot. Yeah, you could put it back into the multiplexer and then do that, but now the multiplexer will always create the full file. Okay, so it's not just you can change that metadata, which is all you really need to do. That's where this comes in. The header editor, and let me just pull it up on here as well, just to make sure, but yeah, so it looks like that, and as you can see, I've got subtitle track 4 open, and I have name selected. You do that, and you can just go in here, tells you what the current one is, the original value is, and you can just put in whatever you want, hit enter, save, just Control S to save, and it writes it into the file. It just is editing the metadata, so the rest of the file is untouched. It's simple, it's clean, you're not having to deal with hundreds of meg or several gigabytes of data, like you would if you did this in the multiplexer. You're just editing it here. And you can subtitle track name you can change. You can change if it is forced or not, if you've got that, if it's a default track or not. The language, you can change the audio track names in the same way. Segment information is where you can set, I mentioned before, you can set the metadata title for the video. That's up in segment information, so you can go there. I tend not to look at the video track stuff, but I mean, in theory, you can set a name there, but just set it for the whole video. So yeah, it's very nice, very simple. And the fact that this is just edit the metadata, save, and you're done, it's very handy because it's faster, it's cleaner, and it is also like I put stuff on my server. I don't want to have to constantly be writing a whole new file every single time. So I can go in with this, make the change on the server, and it's like, yeah, done. I'm not rewriting a file or anything like that. Nope, it's just what needed to be changed got changed. All right, now chapter editor, which is, again, chapters are metadata. And this I've definitely had to do, where the chapter points and some stuff is wrong. It just doesn't put it where I wanted to be. I know this happened with the Outer Limits. There was several where it didn't put a chapter point at the end of the opening. Trying to remember what else. I know there was another TV series that did that, but I can't think of what it was. And it was very, very annoying, very frustrating. So, yeah. So what I did is in a different piece of software that I'm not going to show. It's called Lossless Cut, but it lets you go in and you can put in chapter points there, but it's like the multiplexer where you can put them in, but it doesn't edit the metadata. It just has to export the whole new file. That's annoying. So instead, I find what I'm looking for, and then when I click on that, and actually this is a little unfortunate, I should have taken a different screenshot of this, but you can edit the start and end of the chapter point. You can also edit the name. So, and we can see those 3 entries there. It's just the UI that goes here for doing it. That I forgot for the screenshot. This was set up to show something else that's so handy. But it's like, so combining the deleted scenes, it would put chapter points in, but it would be chapter 01, chapter 02. Okay, I want the names. Edit the name. Don't need to edit the time. When I mentioned adding in chapter points, how I would do that. Here, let me actually just... Oh, no, because it wouldn't show it here, would it? Well... Okay, yeah. Let me show the next one. So when you right-click on any of this stuff, you'll get this context menu, but it is showing different options depending on what you right-click on. So in this case, I right-clicked on the group of chapters, and we got this renumber subchapters. So useful. I want to quickly mention the duplicate selected edition or chapter. Okay, if I need to add in a chapter, that means it's already existing chapter point start and end. I want to change in here. So what I will do is I duplicate that. I have the time code from the other piece of software because I figured out, okay, this is where I want the chapter to be. It says it's there. Okay, duplicate that first one. I changed the end to where I wanted to be. The second one, I changed the beginning. So now they match up as though we're done correctly at the authoring stage. Now, of course, that then leaves the problem of, okay, I've got 2 chapter 1s. Don't want that. So that's where this renumber subchapters comes in. Can do that, and it will then just pop up something up asking, okay, what do you want to do, and select where you want to start the renaming, number of entries to renumber, chapter number of the first created entry, and then the name template, chapter, and it's in greater than less than signs, num:2, telling, yes, it's a number. It's going to be iterating on it, but 2 figures. So it'll have the 0 padding. So it'll be 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, and so on. And actually, if you mouse over, it looks like it's willing to give you. You can set things to do other. You can set it to do other things such as. That's actually interesting. You can have it set chapter names by the time code. I can see why some would do that. I can't think of any time I would do that. But what's really nice is with the renumbering is sometimes, and I do have a few movies where they are across 2 discs. So I need to take the 2 files and I want to combine them together. Well, the problem is that the disc 2, it starts at chapter 1. So I've combined them together. So I can just go in here and all the time codes will be fine if if it has been concatenated properly. Okay, which this will do it properly. If I use the command line tool, that does it properly as well. So it will put all the chapter points will be in. Then the second disk will start not at 0, when it was, but at the right time it has the offset applied. But now I can just go and tell it, yeah, renumber, and it'll go through and renumber all of them. So now it is as though we're a single file off of a single disk. So yeah, I definitely wanted to show that because it saves so much time. It really does when you're going through. Let me see, I got Gandhi, Lawrence of Arabia, Ben-Hur, 10 Commandments, all 3 of the extended editions for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I actually don't think I have any other movies that span multiple discs. Maybe I do, but I'm certainly not thinking of any more. But it still is like that. That is so useful to have. And as I said, this is just metadata. You can do this, and it's like done. You hit save, done. The file isn't rewritten. It's just a specific portion of the file that gets changed. It's awesome. So yeah, the MKVToolNix program, so very useful, even without doing well. I wouldn't have as much use for it if I wasn't taking the media off my disks and putting it into my server. But it still is. It's very powerful. That ability to edit headers, very useful. Edit this stuff is very useful. So I guess, in theory, if you were somebody who decided, yes, I will take the media off the disks and put it on a server, but I don't want to do the video processing stuff, which is fine. You just need to pay for extra storage. And I know flash memory is expensive at the moment because data centers want it, but it's also, my understanding is it's the same production lines that make flash memory as make RAM. So there's competition there, but hard drives might be fine. I'm actually not sure. Why don't I try quickly looking? But in theory, you could actually set up a server with, a few hundred terabyte. And it might not even be that horrifically expensive depending. Yeah, hard drive? Okay. Okay, that's an 8 terabyte for 320, and this is supposed to be a NAS quality drive. So in theory, that is a drive that will work for a long period of time. It might not be very fast, but it's meant for storage, and that's fine. You don't need more than that. That's a little annoying. I don't see a way to filter by the size. I'm just looking at Newegg, by the way. I do not know why. Maybe one thing that, because I have scripts disabled by default, I don't know how much of this stuff is being hidden because of that. Okay, here we go. Looking at just desktop internal drives, which will include the NAS drives. Okay, so let's say 12 terabyte and higher. There's a 12 terabyte for $490. 12 terabyte is a lot. Let me be clear, but it is I would say my collection, which I'm actually getting close. Well, they haven't arrived yet, but we'll be getting close to 400 movies, and I can quickly see how many TV shows I have. Not necessarily how many seasons at the moment. Okay, 49, but here, let's do that. Okay, 44 TV series that I have across media of one form or another. Some are DVDs, some are Blu-rays, is what I mean there. I also have some that I've downloaded, because Internet Archive has a lot of these. But it still is. If you wanted to just have all that, I'm typically getting about a 10-to-1 ratio, compression ratio, original to what's on the server. I've only got probably a little bit more than 3 terabytes, so I'm looking at 30 terabyte that I would need to just hold all of the original media off the discs. And you might have a smaller collection than me, but still, it's like, okay, yeah, that is expensive if you try to order 3 of those 12 terabytes. But it's still, you can start smaller and just add as you go. And it's nice. Right? You can save the money by spending the time to do the processing, or you can just put everything in, and then you know that you're getting the best quality. When you watch it, it's the best quality you're going to get. Because it's what is off the disc. You're just getting the convenience of going through something like Jellyfin. And it's those prices do fluctuate, but yeah, I don't think that's actually that. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is a 12 terabyte Synology specifically. Let's do that. Set it to be a SATA drive specifically instead of SAS. I'm going to turn that off. I mean, it's probably going to end up being the same thing anyway. Oh, well, maybe not. I did not pay that much, so it's definitely gone up, but that's been enough years. That could just be inflation kind of thing. I see a 20 terabyte, and I have a 20 terabyte over there, at $710. And that might also be cheaper than Newegg prices around as well. Oh, that's right. Yeah, so Western Digital, Seagate. Let's go with those two, because those are two pretty fair name brands. At 28 terabyte for $1,000. That's actually not terrible. And I know that sounds horrible, but it's like, that is a lot of storage. That really is. At 22 terabyte for $900 from Western Digital. I mean, it's, yeah. You could, if that's what you want to do, you certainly can do it. It will work. Yeah, and you can look into something called you can use a NAS or you could use a DAS. Some NASs you'd be able to have like Plex or Jellyfin run directly on, but there's also a DAS, a direct access storage, instead of network access storage. So that's basically you get an array where you can put the different 3.5-inch drives into, and then connect it via USB typically today to a computer. And then the computer is what runs the software, but it's basically, you got a big ass multi-port USB drive. It's that I can definitely see for some people being precisely what will work well for them. And there is a part of me that I would be tempted to go to that in the future for this, or suggested other people do that. But if that were what I were doing, getting back to the point, where I'm not doing the video processing, it still is. Editing the chapters might be useful. Editing the headers might be useful. You wouldn't need to do any of the multiplexing, but this stuff would still be useful. So, alright, that has been enough of my blathering, and I certainly was blathering. So, let's stop this and see you next time.